Goodness is running after, it's running after me. And your goodness is running after me. And your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down and surrendered now, I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Yes, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Thank you, guys. That was awesome. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We're excited to have you here. Before we get started, I just want to talk to you about a few things. The first thing is, I wanted to point out the people with the balloons. You probably wonder, who are they? Those are strangers. No, those are our those are our meeting mentors, and we have people designated to greet new people when they come for the first time and to help them feel welcome and acclimated and to understand how our programming works. So if throughout the evening you have any questions or at the end, please see those balloon people. And now I'd like to call your attention to the feedback form. Those of you that are new, it's this form. Those of you that are old know that this form has taken many, many versions. We are trying to find a version that works for everyone. So will you take 1 second, grab a pen. Everybody has to grab a pen and put your name at the top. It doesn't matter, we have the name on both sides. If you put your name on the top, it's really helpful for us. And then at the end of tonight, if you'll take the feedback form before you leave and put it in the basket by the door. These feedback forms are really important. We use them for the summary reports that we put together for the executive directors. So your comments, your feedback, your low-hanging fruit, your connections, your tangible ideas, all those things will be shared with our executive directors in a summary report. So even if you're new, we don't want you to sit back and say, oh, everybody else can do it. We want you to jump in and take part and put down your ideas. So thank you in advance. Next thing, there's a QR code on your briefing doc, which is this document, or the QR code is behind me. Okay, I'm going to ask everyone to take out their phones. And I promise this will take 2 seconds. Will you scan the QR code and answer the 2 questions? Really, really quick. The briefing doc is something we put together that tells the basic background information about each of the nonprofit ministries presenting tonight. We want to know if this is worthwhile. Is it useful? Do you like it? You never look at it. We just love some feedback as to what you think of this form. Again, 2 seconds. There are only 2 questions. So I'll give you 2 seconds to answer them. And while you're answering them, I'm going to thank our meeting sponsor tonight, which is Rustica Bakery. I don't believe Greg Hoyt is here tonight, but we have meeting sponsors that help cover the fixed costs of the food and the materials that we use at these meetings. So we're very, very grateful for our meeting sponsors. We have an opening in November. In case anyone would like to do it, you can come see me afterwards. Amplify's 2023 theme is unknowing, which is different than the unknown. Both can be hard, but they are not the same. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce Ward Brehm and Jay Bennett, who are back with us again to talk about some of the unknowing they've done in their own lives and in their work. Now, Ward and Jay have incredible bios, which would take me as long as I've given them to speak tonight. So instead of reading their bios, I'm going to tell you one thing that keeps impressing me about both of them. They say yes, and they show up. And in my book, that makes a pretty great human. So I'm excited to introduce two pretty great humans to you tonight, Jay and Ward.
To stand up and be subjected to our question. Tommy Hansen, would you do that? So here's the brain teaser. Ward and I are 146 years old, and I'm 2 years older than Ward. So Tommy, how old am I and how old is Ward? Could be 186.
That's how we feel.
Ward looks a little younger than you. Quite a bit younger, actually. 70. I'd say 146 is your number. 74 and 72.
There you go. 74 and 72.
Well, you know, I was driving over here, and an old friend of Jay and mine, Mike Syme, called me, and he asked me what I was up to, and I said, I'm heading over to Christ Presbyterian to give a little talk with Jay. And actually, we're both a little nervous because we haven't had much time to think or talk much about how this is going to go. And he said, well, remember what I told you a few years ago, and that is you have absolutely no reason to be nervous, because if God's going to speak through you, it's God that should be nervous. So, you know, here we are, this idea of unlearning, this idea of sharing personal defects. It's a little intimidating, especially in front of primarily strangers, but the reality is one of the advantages of getting old is that we really don't give a hoot what you think. So you can have at us. You know, it may sound arrogant when you talk about things that you want to unlearn, or when you talk about your past and your regrets. And there, frankly, as I gave this a lot of thought, because originally I thought that was the topic, was to talk about things I would change if I had it to do over again. And I realized, and this sounds arrogant, but there is very little, if anything, I would change. I don't think I'd take a mulligan on much of anything. And the mistakes that I made often were as important and as instructive, if not more, than any successes. So really was intrigued with this idea of unlearning. How about you?
Yeah, unlearning, unknowing. I've been married for 52 years. I looked at Sally a few days ago and I said, is there anything about me that you think I should unlearn or unknow? And she came back in 5 minutes with a list of 22 items. But we really appreciated Julie's distinction between unknowing, unlearning, letting go of things, versus having a long list of regrets. And I, in my own life, have over the years been subject to a lot of what I'll call accusation. Whenever I've got worn down, the accuser comes along and he says, well, in your 35 years of law, you could have done this or you could have done that. You failed at that. And so there's a huge difference between regret, doubt, self-doubt about those things, and the idea of proactively looking toward what's in my life right now that maybe if I let go of it, if I unknew it, if I unlearned it, it might make a difference as I look to the future. So Ward and I have talked about that, and we talked about the accuser many times over the years.
So how are you doing with Pee-wee?
Pee-wee, Ward taught me that when I am accused, Jesus paid the price for that he bled for that. If I've asked for forgiveness and repented of what may have been a mistake, he steps in, and it's not right that Jesus, having paid the price for past mistakes, I would still hold on to those. So he said, well, we should just call the accuser Pee-wee. So whenever the accuser comes along these days, I just call him Pee-wee, and I claim the blood of Jesus, and I say, we're not going to do that. We're going to look to the future. So that's one example in my own life of unknowing something, discovering what has been, and thinking about what can be on a forward-looking basis. How about you? What would you say is an example?
You know, the very first thing that came to mind for me was being in a hurry. I've been in a hurry my entire life. In fact, my dad told me that if I wasn't 5 minutes early, I was late. So I literally set my watch 5 minutes ahead when I was 25 years old, and it was only within the last 2 months that I actually put it on the correct time. Because I was a master of multitasking. I could be drinking a cup of coffee, making a sale on the phone, and driving with my knees. And the side effect of, I never really realized the side effects of being in a hurry. It's impossible to be present with people when you're in a hurry. My son Mike, when he was a teenager, I was bawling him out. I called him into my office and at home, and I was really letting him have it. And he was looking down. I said, hey, Buster, you look me in the eye when I'm talking to you. And he goes, why should I? And I go, uh-oh, here we go. And I said, what did you say? He said, why should I? Whenever I talk to you, you're looking at your computer. And that hurt. But it was because I was in a hurry. I can't lead a contemplative life if I'm in a hurry. I can't listen to God's soft and gentle voice if I'm in a hurry. I can't be safe to be around if I'm in a hurry. And maybe now, most importantly, I can't be a good grandpa if I'm in a hurry. We've all heard about quality versus quantity of time, and I think that's just an absolute fallacy. It's all about quantity of time, and that requires not being in a hurry. My whole life I've been Martha in the Martha and Mary story, and that's one of the things I'm trying to unlearn. I want to be Mary. Dallas Willard, great theologian, was once asked, what is the number one requirement to be a follower of Jesus? And he replied, the ruthless elimination of hurry. And FYI, there's a wonderful book by Mark Comer by that title, which I've been using as an instructive guide. So I've been practicing. One of the things he says is come to a complete stop at a stop sign. Don't go 1 mile over or under the speed limit. And this is the hardest one of all for me. If you're in a grocery line, pick the longest line. Pick the one where you've got 3 just huge carts in front of you. And anyway, I'll just leave it at that I'm a work in progress. How about you, Jaster?
Yeah, you know, another thing that Mark Comer says in that book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, is that he long believed that he could tithe and then go shopping. Jesus tells us in Matthew 6:24, you can't serve 2 masters. I've served 2 masters for decades in my life. It was as if I had a spiritual master suite in my spiritual home, and I had twin beds in there, one for God and one for Mammon. And they didn't occupy that room at the same time. I had a rogue event in my life that straightened that out, and I discovered now some number of years ago the freedom of serving one master. Mammon is a spiritual force that wraps us up and causes us to think insecurely and scarcely. And when we release and demote Mammon to a place in our lives where it is just a nuisance, it opens up the realm of serving Jesus, which brings a measure of freedom and joy and fulfillment and creativity that can't be experienced when you serve 2 masters. So I had to learn over decades not to serve 2 masters. What would you think of next, Rip?
You know, the second thing that popped into my head was confidence. confidence served me extraordinarily well in business. It served me extraordinarily well in my ministry and humanitarian efforts in Africa. But it's not serving me very well anymore. I think that leaders need to be confident. I've been described, and I think I've told you guys at previous Amplify meetings, that I've been described by my friends and even people who like me as often wrong but seldom in doubt. And I'm growing, much more comfortable with uncertainty. I want to unlearn having to be right. And one of the ways to do that is to just imagine that the other guy might be right. And I'm finding myself at least trying to ask more questions than having all the answers. Part of that is my desire to live a surrendered life. We hear about it, it's preached, but how do you actually do that? And Scripture says, make your body a living sacrifice, and the problem with a living sacrifice is that it can crawl off the altar. And I'm crawling off all the time, but I'm still working on it. My wife, Chris, used to say, and maybe this is not so much anymore, how can you be so sure? How can you be so confident? How can you be so sure of yourself? And I thought it was the dumbest question in the world, and I felt sorry for her because she wasn't the same. And then she topped it off with saying, it seems like you're partners with Jesus. The only problem is you're the managing partner. So this notion of confidence, every week, every Sunday, actually every day, I read or recite the Lord's Prayer. And a verse that popped out was, thy will be done. And I realized I don't want God's will to be done. I want my will to be done. I'm actually praying for my will to be done. And now I'm learning to pray not for specific outcomes, but that indeed God's will be done. Remembering that He answers all prayers. God answers all prayers. He either says yes or not yet, or I got something better in mind. Jay?
One of the great privileges I've had in recent years is to mentor, groups of young men, next generation men, around the issues of halftime and of generosity. And one of the issues we talk about is are we a fisherman or a shepherd? And my reaction has been, I was a fisherman, and I was a left side of the boat fisherman. I was a left brain fisherman. Data, statistics, logic, reason, winning arguments, whatever can bring in the haul. And I mentioned that to Sally one time, and she said, in John 21, Jesus comes along after the resurrection, and He looks at the boat, and the disciples have been out there, and they haven't brought in anything all night. They've been fishing on the left side of the boat. And He says, well, why don't you try fishing on the right side of the boat? Why don't you lower your nets on the right side? And they bring in this giant haul. The right side of the brain is a space where the spirit, I believe, has more reason to move. We integrate both sides of the brain, but I'm seeking to unlearn just the left side of the boat oriented task toward let the mystery do its work. Fish on the right side of the boat. Yes, use your experience from the left side of the boat. And along the way, hopefully you have a chance to shepherd next generation people toward that more bilateral reality of what the Lord would have us do.
I love that. Let the mystery do its work. I'm always...
Yeah, Sally prays me out the door every day. Follow the cloud like the nation Israel. Don't move unless the Lord's moving, and when the cloud moves, you move. That's not been my MO. And let the mystery do its work. Don't try to dot every I and cross every T based on your own thoughts. Let the Spirit move in a way to achieve results that the Spirit intends. And the reality is the results are much better.
Let's see. The last thing for me that popped up was mortality. and earthly versus eternal thinking. And, I never thought seriously about my own death. I suppose that's probably a good thing. You walk around as a teenager thinking about your own death, it'd be kind of weird. But 10 years ago, I got diagnosed with a whole host of major maladies, and had to ask myself the question, really for the first time. So, how many Christmases do I have left? The answer to that was, why would you even ask? There is no limit. There is no limit. And now, for me, there definitely is a limit. How many summers at the cabin do I have left? And that's a finite number. And for all of you who think I'm making a big deal out of this, this applies to you. So, especially anybody our age or older, we're running out of runway. And it's for that reason that I would like to learn how to live more intentionally, and I am. Live one day at a time, enjoy one moment at a time, and try to switch this earthly focus to an eternal focus. I was brought up, as probably most in this room, that God first, family second, career third, and I lived my life an exact opposite. It was business first, family second, God a distant third, in reality. If somebody would have followed me around and make a scorecard, that would be how it is. And now I realize more and more that the first commandment is to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And if we don't do that, it taints the second commandment, which is love your neighbor as yourself. I give myself an A on helping my neighbor. God's led me in that direction, and my entire life that came extraordinarily naturally to me and provided huge joy, huge meaning, and but really flunk in the love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Working on it. I want to unlearn that, and more than anything, I want to, as Matthew says, seek first the kingdom of God, and embrace tomorrow. Each breath is a gift, and just stop kneeling to the kingdom of Ward. And I give myself a good grade, a great grade for effort, and a lot of these things are a lot harder than they may sound.
Julie, I think that's a good place for us to wrap it up, if you're okay with that. Yep. All right. We love Amplify. God bless all of you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brian. My name is Marie, for those of you that I have not yet had the chance to meet. I'm one of the staff here at Amplify, and I have the privilege of managing marketing and communications work for the organization. And tonight, I am so excited to share with you a story of impact of one of the many ministries that we work with. If you were here with us in May, you probably remember Jenny Gaines with JCS Effective Sober Living. Well, she shared her incredible story of redemption and freedom from a life of trafficking and addiction. She shared some pretty big dreams for the future, if you remember. And the question that she posed to us was, how does she develop a sustainable business model that will allow her to work full-time for JCS? Not an easy task, but boy, did you all show up in a really big way. So here's what's been happening over the past 2 months. It started with an AMP session, where many of you jumped into action, offering your individual and collective support. At the end of that 1-hour session, Jenny had 10 of you lined up to work with her in numerous and specific ways. One partner offered a business plan, another grant writing. Someone else said, I'll create a video for you. Another said, I can do board training and support. Others volunteered to host fundraisers and create fundraising campaigns, and someone even offered to cover the cost of Jenny to attend a leadership conference. If that wasn't enough, Jenny left that AMP session with a group of people who were invested and willing to continue working alongside her as an advisory committee. They've met together regularly since, and they didn't waste any time getting to work. They actually met 1 week later right here at CPC. And at the end of that first meeting, one partner said, that was the most productive meeting I've ever attended. So later that same day, a GoFundMe page was created and launched to raise a down payment for a new home so that Jenny can serve more clients. Just a few days after that, a video was created to capture Jenny's story, and the momentum hasn't stopped since. The advisory group has met three times? Actually, they just met today before this meeting, so they've been busy. And they have a list of 29 action items that they are working through to help Jenny create this sustainable business plan. Friends, this is because of you. You show up, you freely offer what you have to give, you combine it with others, and amazing ripples of impact happen. So thank you on behalf of the Amplify team for all that you give when you show up in this room. Jenny is actually here with us tonight, so if you get a chance, please stop by to hear personally from her what's going on, some updates. She has an event coming up in August that she would love to share with you, so please stop and connect with her. At this point, I would like to invite Ray up here to introduce our first presenting ministry for tonight. And I want to invite you to once again open up your ears and your hearts to what you're about to hear from two amazing ministries tonight. And if you have stories of how God is at work with your connections, I would love to hear about it. Thanks.
Well, hi there. My name is Ray. I've been coming to these sessions for a few months now. I was quickly asked to do more, which has been fun. And I've gotten to hang out with Shane and a number of people. And Shane has just been a joy to work with. This whole lift up thing that he's been working on for years now, he actually was here 3 or 4 years ago with Lift Up. And now he's bringing a completely new direction that Lift Up has been looking internationally, and now he's looking to bring that domestically. So I'm really excited for Shane to talk to you all. So Shane, come on up. Did you get the clicker?
I got the clicker.
Shane's really worried about this clicker. So he's been really worried that he was gonna click while everything was happening. So if he leaves now, so you got goal 1,
Got it.
goal 2, don't leave with it. Yeah, leave it here. All right.
It's a lot to do.
That's the last of my coaching.
Thank you. Yeah, coaching is done. He's done with me. Thank you so much. It is, this clicker, I was worried about it. I was like, it's in my pocket. Marie gave it to me before it started. I was like, who knows what's going to happen next with this thing while I'm eating. But super excited to be here. Huge shout out to Julie, Marie, the whole Amplify team, my coaches, Ray, Steve, Mike. You guys have been amazing, and it is an absolute honor to get to be here again with you to share kind of where we're going, what we're doing with Lift Up. So if you weren't here the first time, I'm just going to share briefly the heart behind Lift Up and what it is. And so it all started when I was a junior at Bethel, and I took J-term, which is all of January, and I talked Bethel into letting me go to Haiti. And I was like, I need an internship. Just I'll do it over here at this Christian school in Haiti. They're like, sure. And then found out the liability issues and didn't let it happen. But I still went, and I was there, and I was like, okay, I'm going to help this Christian school in the mountains of Haiti and figure out how I can support and serve over these next 30 days. And while I was there, something happened that really impacted me, and I met a young kid who was kicked out of school because he couldn't afford a pair of shoes. And we're talking the only free education, the only hot meal in this entire village is coming from this one spot. So I'm like, we got to get this kid a pair of shoes. We found a pair of shoes, only worth $5, and he was back in school the next morning. We gave him shoes, and immediately I watched him thrive. He was educated. He was fed. I went back to that school 4 separate times over the next 2 years, and I just watched him thriving and have all the opportunities that comes with that, with education and proper nutrition. And I was like, okay, No one else knows this kid even exists. He's in the mountains of Haiti, and a $5 bill transformed his life and the trajectory of his life. And I was like, how can we figure out a way to give access to people who want to help stories like this and kids like this, while at the same time giving visibility to people who deserve it, just like this young boy named Kenzie, who was only 8 years old, trying to just get an education. So came home and started to lift up from there. We do 3 things specifically. We vet tangible projects around the globe, okay, through a 24-step certification process, making sure every single project is fully vetted, ready to go, so donors can come in and choose their passion point. Second thing is we give 100% away. Every penny that comes in goes back out. We even reimburse credit card fees. So if you give $5, we believe every dollar can make a difference, so we make sure it goes out the door. And what has been really exciting is we've seen a lot of success from that. Something we're most excited about is over 100 projects, but primarily what started with one kid, one pair of shoes is about to eclipse 250,000 people impacted. So that is incredible, something we're so proud of, so excited. Yeah, love it. And I will tell you, it is an absolute blessing to be a part of, and I've got 3 members of my team here that are absolutely amazing and just so cool to see how God's used this thing to continue to transform lives globally. But with that, I've started to process through and have this burden for 2 years now of this platform's working and the need in America is only getting greater. How do we leverage what's working and bring it into the local context? And so I started to process through, okay, well, let's just try and take the platform, the format, the structure, and apply it to local. And that didn't really work because it was a cookie-cutter approach. It didn't fit what's needed here. We don't need water wells. We don't need schools, all these community-based things. What we need is the individuals and the families that are currently in need all over our country. We need targeted support to these people. And so you think of a single mom who just had twins, has no budget for a double stroller. How do we get her a double stroller, right? And there's so many amazing people that want to help, but they just don't know how or where. So I've been praying about this. I'm on my way home from Detroit. I'm on a plane. I've literally been praying about this for a year of Lord, how do we take this and massage the structure of how we do it and put it into the local context where it works? And I was looking out the window as we were taking off in a random suburb of Detroit, and I randomly just felt like the Lord downloaded this moment where yellow lines were popping out of this house, or all these houses. I saw hundreds of yellow lines, and it looks kind of like this is what I was seeing, and I felt like the Lord was just like, every house you see has a need, and nobody knows it. Nobody knows how to help them. There's no access point. People want to, but can't because they don't know. And it was the same concept as the little boy in Haiti. And I was like, how do we amplify? How do we magnify? How do we give visibility to these people and make it easy for people to change the world with a click of a button? And that's the goal of this platform. And so I started to do some research on, well, what's the need here in the U.S.? How significant is it? And I was shocked that across the board, everything I was researching says about 1/3 of the country don't have access to basic needs. We're talking physiological needs, from whether it's laundry to diaper to toothpaste to medical. And so that's the categories we're going to work within in this platform, is within health, babies, shelter, food, and clothing. And those are the types of items we're going to be able to provide instantly and streamlined for people. And so the problem we identified was people want to help, but they don't know who is in need. They don't know where to help or where to look or how to do it. And so I was like, okay, well, this is, again, an access and visibility issue. How do we give access to those who want to help and visibility to those who deserve to be helped? And so that whole concept is what I prayed through from that plane ride. I just kept processing with the Lord, how do we fulfill it? How do we vet it? How do we scale this across the country? And I felt like he continued to drop idea after idea in that plane ride, and that's what I'm going to share with you, is the solution I believe that we can bring to the table is a trusted, user-friendly digital platform that is accessible, scalable, streamlined, trusted, and gives you access to truly change someone's life instantly. So what that looks like is a platform. A platform when you maybe would think of Airbnb, but instead of looking at housing or trying to find short-term housing, you're actually looking at your community and where the needs are. What are the needs in your community? What does it look like? And in this process, you get to see things like, okay, in proximity to me in my city, in my zip code, and you can filter through, is it baby's needs? Is it, I want to give $100, what could I do for $100? And you're going to have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to hover over it, I'm going to see what the need is, and if I click on the need, I'm going to be able to go in and learn about it. And when you scroll down from here, you're going to see the story of the need. And underneath that, you're going to see the partner. Who's the vetted partner you're working with? And they'll be rated just to show how trusted they are, how vetted, how we walk through that whole process. And so taking us to referral partners, how in the world could we vet this? And that's something I asked the Lord, and I felt like he just dropped in my heart, like the social welfare system, boys and girls clubs. Like there's organizations daily on a daily rhythm of what they do, interacting with people and know what the true needs are. And so if we completely cut out the idea of competing, but collaborating, how do we connect all the people doing good and give you super easy access, do all the work in the middle so that you can just quickly help people? And so we'll be doing background checks. We'll take the certification process that we've been doing overseas for the last 5 years, and we're going to be able to apply it here locally. How do we make that vetting process work here? It's actually a lot easier because I can go face-to-face and talk to them, which is nice. But annual trainings, background checks, really, really strict criteria on what's going to be accepted. And then referral partners will be things like school social workers, boys and girls clubs, nonprofits, cap agencies, churches, things like that, identifying those needs. And then real quick, this is kind of a big concept, so I tried to simplify this the best I could, was how does this work? Step one, the need is identified by the referral partner, as I was talking about, is they found the person in need, and then they submit that need on behalf of the recipient. So the family, the single mom, whoever's in need, they submit it on their behalf with their permission and a signed waiver, talking to my attorneys, which is good. And then that'll get submitted to us, which is great. And then we'll have a gatekeeping process after they've vetted it, approve or deny. It'll get published live onto the platform if it gets approved, go right through into the funding sources that we have, our network of funders, that will then meet those needs. Once it's met, it will be ordered primarily through Amazon, which will be kicked out straight to the referral partner, which would be those churches, nonprofits, organizations that then hand deliver it to the recipient. And so that personal touch is back, even though the process of funding is streamlined. This allows you to say, okay, we're making the referral partners look like the good guys, and they've got skin in the game because they have some work to do here, which makes it a really, really cool collaboration, giving them access to more resources. And then once it's received, the donor's going to get all this feedback from the recipient that we received on the front end, so we have it immediately once it's funded, and it's going to kick back to the donor and say, hey, thank you so much. This is what it means to them, because they submitted that on the front end. So that is quickly, briefly how it works. And one of my favorite things about this is we are trying to get creative with revenue, because the Lord told me to give 100% away. And I've been like, that's a great idea, but we got a team, so how are we going to fund that? And that's what we've been working on. And what I'm really excited about this platform is we're going to give 100% away, but we're going to monetize it on both sides. The front side, or on the funding side, corporations are going to have access to white label this platform. They're going to be able to say, we want this to look like us. We want our employees to give to this. And as soon as this is scaled across the nation, their remote employees can give in whatever community or passion point they have in the area of the country. And then we're going to be able to say, okay, that's a pay-to-play model, to have it look like you, white labeled for you, and branded for you. And then we have impact dashboards for their employees to show not only how many dollars they've given, but how many lives have you personally impacted. It tracks your lifetime impact within our platform, which is awesome. And then on the other side, every single thing that goes through Amazon, we've got a tax-free affiliate link where we're going to get roughly 3% back on everything. So if we move 10 million through next year, we're going to get 300 grand back to be able to pay our staff. So that is the two ways we're going to immediately monetize the platform once this is launched and ready to go. And then benefits of this platform that stands out from anybody else doing this combination of platforms is it's scalable, it's targeted on individuals, we give 100% away, it's fully vetted, streamlined because it's a digital platform, integrated with companies. And one thing that we had a really cool meeting with a company, and they said, you know what I love about this is it's very dignifying. People are getting brand new items of their size, exactly what they want, whatever it is, and they're going to actually be so incredibly excited about this because they're not getting used stuff. They're getting brand new stuff. And so they were really excited about that, and I was really excited because they're a big company. And so everything's tax deductible. We have an interactive map like Airbnb. You can search on stuff, and then the gamification of earning badges, tracking your impact, all that, which is awesome. So we're gonna start this in the Twin Cities. We're gonna figure out for a year. We're gonna nail everything down, all our processes, all our systems, all our vetting, all of our fulfillment, all the logistics, and make it work perfect, as close as we can get to it. And then we're going to start branching out into like New York, LA, Chicago, big markets, make it work there. And then the hope is within 3 years, we're in every single state in the country. And then you have easy access to help people across the country with the click of a button, immediately vetted, everything. So 4 main challenges we're facing today is vetting, fulfillment, logistics, making sure we can scale that up, populating the platform with needs. There's millions of needs, we just are finding them all, and then infusing the platform with funders is what we're gonna focus on today, because we can fill it with all of these needs, that we have access to such a network of needs, but at the same time, we need the other side of the seesaw to funding all those needs so they don't sit dormant. And then scaling into national markets as well. But what we're doing so far, before I jump into the ask, just so you know, in relation to the ask, what we've tried, what we're doing, what we've done, we've got a presence on Facebook, Instagram, email marketing, word of mouth that is already reaching about an audience of 10,000 that we're constantly hitting. But my ask is, how do we explode the impact of this platform by reaching large audiences, businesses, influencers, high-capacity individuals, and being able to reach the media options too, of just like, I think there's so much opportunity, even just starting right now in the Twin Cities, of companies that would jump all over this, ideas for just how do you fund this in a really specific, tangible way, get enough people excited about it in the process, in the flow, that it's able to meet both sides of the need. The needs are met and the funders are there. So, with that being said, our goal is to bring the impact home. And that is where I believe the greatest need is, where people want to help right now. And so with that, just thank you so much for having me, and excited to talk with you guys more later.
That was awesome. We're going to take questions for a few minutes of the whole group before we listen to the next presentation, and then break up into our facilitated group. So what questions out there do you have for Shane? Yes.
Shane, I know you talked about populating the need. Is there a disaster component to this that's immediately reactive to hurricane, things like that, in certain parts of the country?
Totally. So that is what we want to do. Part of it is we have to have the structure in those parts of the country before we can turn it on. We do have organizations that respond within 24 hours, boots on the ground around the country. So we can do a start there, but we're going to want to have built up structure around who's meeting those needs. And as we build around the country, I think we'll be able to do that for sure. Hi, Gigi. You're awesome. Great question. This is, so you can see it's really small, but up above that little girl's face, there's a share and a save. The save's going to operate like a follow, be notified about the need. The share is going to allow you to blast it out wherever you want, emails, socials, all that stuff. Very good idea. Totally. So we've gone back and forth a ton on that, and the 2 main challenges right now is a ton of these people that we're going to be working with have temporary housing, and secondly, a lot of underserved communities have porch pirates everywhere. So you might get there, but they might not receive them. Those are the 2 main things we've been working through. Plus, then the referral partner gets that, helps with fraud, like they are hand delivering it, making sure they're gauging everything. We have analytics on that stuff, so it's a good question. We've thought about both.
Yes.
With any national type of charities like this, any of them that are out there, are we doing more just local?
Yeah, so we're hoping to integrate with all sorts of organizations and kind of be that connection piece, kind of a hub where anyone can go to help. And the idea is we'd be vetting organizations all over the country. And so some that are national would be great. We're just trying to figure out how to scale appropriately and start local with the intention of definitely being connected nationally. Totally. Yeah, and we've had the privilege of connecting with some of those with just some opportunities we've had to be able to connect with them, but I think there's only more and more opportunities to do that for sure. It's a great idea. Yeah, totally gone. Yeah, that'd be a really good idea for us to implement, for sure. I think having that structure built for the disaster type stuff, because I know the hope is disaster would be kind of an arm of it, but not the primary focus. But with that, I mean, to allow individuals to be deployed in that type of situation and kind of have the needs known, I think would be really powerful, for sure. So that's something we can definitely integrate. Who do you want to pick?
What is your aim as far as a turnaround time frame from submitting a need to?
Great question. So Amazon Prime, 2 days. I'm just kidding. But as far as funding, we would hope everything would be funded within a couple weeks. And I'm guessing it's going to be like $50 to $500, kind of the window of a lot of those needs. And we're already building up a general fund to be able to fill gaps if things slow down. But the hope would be people would be notified in their communities when it's ready, that audience would expand, and then we'd have funds ready to meet needs that are partially funded and sitting.
Have you reached out to teachers? Because teachers often know the needs of their individual students more than maybe their parents are sharing.
Totally. Yeah, I think teachers could be an integral part because schools are nonprofits. We could partner with them. It's just finding the correct channel to kind of not turn it into too much of a bottleneck where there's too many voices, but having kind of a point person per school that teachers can go to and say, hey, here's the person that you need. And that's probably the school social worker, as we've been doing kind of interviews and talking to schools and stuff. But I think teachers will have a huge say in where the needs are. Absolutely. Yeah, I think churches are very interested in this. We haven't got to the point where we're actually onboarding churches, but I think they're going to be a huge part of this network. Because they could also have them deploy them, yeah. And to your point about the natural disaster stuff, if churches could be the first on the ground to go do that.
Shane, maybe just a few seconds on how you're thinking about theft, fraud,
Yep.
diversion, so we don't help you with those problems.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we're thinking through it several ways. So there's multiple ways that we have analytics tracking exactly what we're going to do and how we're going to deliver it. And then I know Ben's sitting at this table. He's got all my fraud stuff covered, so I may have him answer at some point. But essentially what we're going to do is we're going to make it very limited to start of what partners can do. And maybe it's three to five things a month. And then we're able to track those analytics, see how they're performing, see who they're going to, make sure there's no repeat anything, and just keep our eyes on that small group that we start with and figure out what are those things we can implement that allow us to be able to say, okay, this is clean, this is working, and here's how we keep eyes on this scalable and sustainably long term.
Okay, I know there's a lot more questions, but we're going to move on to the next nonprofit, and Shane's going to be around afterwards so you can ask him questions. Is one of these working? Okay, fine. Anyway, but while the next person comes up to introduce the nonprofit, make sure you're writing down on your feedback form thoughts, ideas, that low-hanging fruit. It's really, really key. So thank you so much.
All right, humble, hungry, and smart. Those of us in the business world know that those are three things that we look for in a great employee, in a great leader, and they also happen to describe Kelly Smart. Humble because it takes a lot of humility to meet with people you have never met for a couple months and have them scour your pretty little baby and give you tips and advice, but also ask those hard questions. And hungry because she has worked really hard for where she is today and has been involved in the nonprofit sector in one way or another for most of her life. And smart, not just because it's her last name, but because she truly is smart. So you guys welcome Kelly Smart. Hi, I am Kelly Smart, and I am the executive director and founder of Print the Love. And I love Shane. We talked earlier, and he's super high tech. We're going back analog here, so it's going to be a little bit different. So thank you for listening to my journey. She's prettier, she's smarter, she's way more fun, and she's going to be a great mom to our kids. My body literally shook as my husband of 10 years and father of our 2 young children described how hard it was to pick between me and his mistress. And that was just the beginning of the financial, spiritual, emotional, and physical abuse that I endured. It brought me to the darkest place that I have ever been, a place where I didn't feel like I mattered at all to this world. PTSD, 15 panic attacks a day was my life, but God had other plans. During this time, I was invited on a trip to Rwanda as part of a logistics team, and while they were talking in the conference, I was able to go into the streets and take pictures, as maybe many of you have in Rwanda or Africa. And this is before I had my phone, so I had my digital camera, and of course I'm taking pictures of the kids, and they're wanting to look at the back of the camera. And I'm sitting there saying, do you have pictures? And they said, of course not. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, why in the world do I have this picture? You should have this picture. And I'm thinking, well, okay, I've worked in nonprofits a long time. Maybe there's someone else that's doing this kind of thing, because I can't imagine not having a photo of my family. Now, my house didn't literally burn down, it figuratively did, but if it was, those are the things that I would grab. Those are my greatest gifts and treasures. And imagine never having one, not even one. And my father, who's passed away, that's all I have of him, and it's one of my greatest treasures. So I went back home. I knew I was going to actually go with this group again the following year to Rwanda. And I was like, okay, someone's doing this. Someone offers a camera. Don't they have Polaroid anymore? So I Google, and nobody is doing this. No one is addressing this in the humanitarian space as something that is a gift and important of honoring people's image. So I decided, okay, well, I'm going back. I'm going to go give away 1,000 photos in 10 days. I, at this point, literally couldn't function on any level, and I said, I can do one thing. I can give away a photo. I can say, you matter to somebody. I was living in a world where I was told I didn't matter, and I didn't want to be in that world. I wanted to be in a world where a stranger can give a picture to me and say that I matter. So here's my first marketing photo, actually, of my 2 kids as we crowdfunded within a couple days, because people said, of course I would give a couple dollars so that a family could have a picture of themselves. So this is my first trip. This is actually one of the first photos I ever gave away, and she put it right on her heart. And there's those moments in your life when the Holy Spirit says, you have to do this. This is what you're going to do. And I didn't understand why. I still maybe don't understand the full picture of why. But this is the time when he said, this is part of your life's work, Kelly. So I immediately found the magic in giving away photographs in a way that you can imagine being seen is really, really important. You matter to the world. It matters that you are here and that you get ownership over that image and your story. And it flips the script on saying, oh, we're just gonna take a bunch of pictures. No, we're giving them away. And it boggles people's mind when they say, what? You're not just trying to take pictures of us and exploit us? No, I wanna give you a gift to you. So through this, I was like, okay, this is magic. I don't have any other way to explain it, and I hope that all of you in this room could just feel the joy that happens during the connection with people in this way. So in 2015, I started it as a nonprofit and said, okay, we gotta give away more photographs. And so our vision at the time with the board, and it's still our vision, is to see every person on earth feel loved and valued and celebrated, even amidst life's most difficult trials. Imagine the Rwandan people and the genocide that they went through is horrific.
that all would have access to photographs of family and friends and life's most cherished memories and milestone, and that our vision is to celebrate the value and the dignity, and that's what I hadn't seen before. I really want them to feel dignified in wherever they are, of individuals in the lowest resources community through the gift of an instant photograph. So kind of what sets us apart from other NGOs or other nonprofits working in this space is literally no one else is doing what we're doing and honoring people's gifts. We also really are adamant about ethical photography. It's really important to us that I keep absolutely no photographs for ourselves. They're 100% for them. We only use cameras that give them the photographs. Also, surprisingly, I'm not a photographer. I get that all the time. I am a humanitarian, and I'm coming at this from a human space of wanting this gift for others, and how do they not have access to something like that? Also, we're really rare in that we actually ask for nothing in return, absolutely nothing. We don't ask their name, their age, if this is their 5th picture of their life or their first, nothing, and that's really rare in the NGO space. Honestly, they love to share, and many times there's lots of wonderful conversations, but really there's no barrier to getting a picture. It's just if you want one, you get one. So we have 3 programs currently. So we have a service learning volunteer trips, and then we also have a program called Supply the Love, which was kind of what I was looking for when I went to Rwanda, where you can borrow a camera and get film and give it away on some other venture that you're on to a lower resource community. And then also we do have local impact here in the Twin Cities. So basically the service learning volunteer trips, we take very small teams, 4 to 6. I try to not be a distraction. We don't want it to be about us, it's about them. And if the teams are too big, it doesn't happen. And we do go to the lowest resource countries to give away photos to schools, hospitals. The maternity wards are some of my absolute favorite with the new babies that would never have something like that. Markets, slums, and these trips cost around $3,000 to $4,000. So I'm starting to kind of talk revenue as we talk about how we're going to scale Print the Love, which I'm hoping you're going to help me with today. So that's about what those trips cost. Also Supply the Love, like I said, that's for kind of what we call our self-trekking ambassadors, borrowing a camera and giving away photos on their own. So maybe you're going to Guatemala to build a house or Kenya to work in a school. You can borrow one of our cameras, and I've sent them actually all over the world, not just in the US, and give away the film and just send us back the camera. And this program is actually free. It's just an application, and I just need enough time to send you the cameras. We used to actually charge for it, but since we asked for donations instead, we actually get more. Here in Minnesota, we've connected in lots of different ways. We have a kindness relay where we give away random acts of kindness in Minneapolis. We work with schools to make kindness cards in the languages of the countries that we're going to connect the schools. And we do ethical photography practices and teaching with other NGOs that are interested in these kinds of policies that are really important. And we do give away photographs here. It's not quite the same as the context, but we do. So far, since we started with that 1,000 in Rwanda, we've given away over 14,000 in actually 27 countries on 5 continents, which is amazing. Here's, if you're a map person, which I love maps, so here's where we've been with the 27 countries, and about 73% of the photos that we've given away are from the trips, and about 27% of the photos we've given away is from the Supply the Love. So here we get down to numbers. We're much smaller than Shane and his numbers, which is awesome. You always got to start somewhere. So this is last year's numbers, so in very simplified for people that love this kind of stuff. So about $25,000 in total revenue last year. Trip income, we do have a $900 admin fee added to our trips, because a lot of times like, oh, you want to scale this, Kelly? Well, just charge more, or just have more trips. Well, that's not as easy as it sounds. Also, I have a value of not charging extreme amounts for trips, right? I want this to be affordable for people who want to fundraise or pay for it for themselves. And then on the expense side, there is the trip expenses. We also have admin and equipment expenses for insurance and that kind of stuff. Also, just last year, I started to get a small stipend to help with the work, but the first 6 years was 100% volunteer. So we have a big vision for Print the Love, and this is kind of what God put on my heart to bring to the board and to you today. And it is to reach all 46 lowest resourced countries, and this is not a list from us, this is from the UN. They put this out about every 3 years. And there are 46, we've been to about half of them, and we want to give away 100,000 photos. We serve a big God, and I know we can do it in 10 years. So I started with the 1,000 in 10 days, and we want to go to 100,000 photos in 10 years. And how are you going to do that? How is that possible in 10 years? So just to keep numbers, because I know there's people in here that love numbers, that the volunteer trips we're only about to give away 2,000 to 3,000. That's what we've kind of figured out fits within a 7 to 10 day trip, just because we're going to different schools and giving each and every person attention takes a lot of time. Even when we work 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., that's about how many we can give away. With the Supply the Love trips, we only give them about 100 to 150, which you say, hey, that's not that much. But actually, when you're doing lots of other things with whatever program you're traveling with, we find that that's actually kind of the sweet spot for that. So to reach our goal of giving away 100,000 photos by the end of 2033, that means 30 trips and 180 Supply the Love ambassadors. So there's some current obstacles to that, to not just like, oh yeah, just put together 30 trips. Well, it takes about at least 150 hours worth of work to plan a trip for me. I do all the logistics of flights, lodging, all the connection with all the local NGOs, translators, transportation on the ground, which takes a lot of work because we only go to places that we're invited, and we only go with locals. We never go in anywhere by ourselves. I actually do have a full-time job outside of Print the Love, so that does, make it hard for me to do at least the 150 hours. Also, this isn't a job that you can do when the kids go to sleep or on the weekend. You actually need PTO to go on trips. And I've only been, there was 1 year I did 2 trips, but I also like to see my family and my kids. So I've only been able to do 1 trip a year. Marketing to get people to sign up for trips is always a challenge too. We've had lots of people, and we've been in the Star Tribune and WCCO News, and people will sign up instantly, which is amazing, but we just need more of those kinds of things because we are doing something really, truly unique. And we need educated, trained leaders that, so it's not just about Kelly. This is much bigger than me, and it can't be just me that go on trips. So we actually do have a number of leaders that are ready to go, and so that's great too. Also, grants that we've asked for in terms of money, they really want follow-up and impact, which is totally understandable. But remember before when I said we don't ask for any information? Grants, they don't like that. So for our numbers people, I'll leave this up here for a second. So when you're thinking like, okay, if you can hire 1 full-time person or 2 part-time people to help you, here's some numbers. So even if we did 5 trips a year with 5 participants, kind of looking at the revenue and actually bumping it up to $1,500 instead of $900, and trips cost around $3,000. Still in the first scenario there, you're going to see $72,000 in donations is needed to subsidize. Also, if maybe you want to bump it down a little bit, then there's 3 trips a year, which also takes a lot of time and effort and is worth it because what we do is truly different and unique. You still need $87,000. Now, so what if you said, okay, just doing trips, no donations, completely sustainable on its own just by the revenue? Okay, then that's going to be 14 trips a year, which is I was like, oh my gosh, there's no way I could ever do 14 trips a year. And still see my family. So this is the ask tonight. Can you help Print the Love create a sustainable revenue model and a blueprint that will allow for full-time staff and increased capacity to reach our big vision? So how do you see, by not just saying, oh yeah, just throw more money in the trips and just add more trips, to scale what we're doing and offering and getting more people photographs of their family, their children. So yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Kelly. That was great. Okay, we have time for a few questions before we break up. Terry.
We have worked with churches for sure, but in a small capacity, because that definitely takes capacity to reach out to them. So that's a great idea. Would love it. And we have had the youth groups bring cameras for sure. Yeah.
Tim.
Yeah. Can you hand it to me? It's right there. So this is. Oh, I don't want to fall off the stage here. So I did bring this. This is kind of the new kind of boho cool version. This is a Fujifilm. Actually, Polaroid is a Minnesota company, and we have met with them. Also, Fuji has sent us film and cameras before. We don't have a big, extensive relationship with them, which we would love because we were kind of talking to people in the middle, not people at the top. But this is, the reason we use this particular piece is because it actually does create a really nice photo, and it's on AA batteries. So many of the places we go does not have electricity at night to charge cameras and all kinds of things. So this will give about 1,500 pictures on 4 AA batteries and keep no copies, and actually does really nice. We also partner, which is a huge partner of ours, is Ultra Pro, because I started giving photographs to the babies, and they started like crumpling them all up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I want that to last 50 years, you know? So we said, you know, what can we offer as a frame to keep it? And we were like, well, what about like baseball covers that are really thick and hard, that are UV protectant, dust protectant, and all that kind of stuff. So Ultra Pro loves us, and they do send us anything that we want. And so we bring those with everywhere we go as well. So.
Yes, Clinton.
I love that. So we have had that idea for sure, but the problem is you can only do 10 pictures at a time, and then our mission would then be becoming a film distributor, because how would they get the film again unless we can only carry so much even ourselves on a plane? And then the sustainability of that ends very quickly. But I love that. I wish we could just send everybody, right? Why doesn't every school have instant photos? So I do like that, yeah. Or you call, sorry.
Oh, no. Yeah, go.
I know that you have an ambassador program, which sounds like it's a bit independent, but have you ever considered working with other travel planners, travel agents, and making it a program that they might adopt?
Oh, in terms of, like, they would offer to their people? No, I have never used that. No, that's a great idea. Yep. I have thought of tacking on to alumni groups that do a lot of travel to places and doing like one-day trip for them, or like a part of it, but then someone would have to be there with them. And not that what we do is rocket science, but there is a business to it in terms of how we treat people, how we approach people, how we talk to school administrators, those things that I do like to have some kind of influence on our act of kindness in that way. Yeah.
Just to follow up on that, it reminded me of, it was an editorial written by a guy named Ken O'Deedy, who was from the Nairobi slum, and he started this school called Shine Hope.
Oh, sure.
It was a school for girls. And this editorial that he wrote was about growing up in Kibera.
Yes, I've been there. Yes. Mm-hmm.
He talked about all the buses of tourists or vans of tourists that would come in and take pictures and of them and then go back to where they were going. And he said he felt as a child and all the way through very robbed of his dignity, that he was some sort of sideshow or circus show.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're doing is really about education, and it's about how we go out into the world and how we should behave, and let's turn it around and do the right thing. And so I think that there's a lot here
Yeah.
that is quite beautiful in a very global sense,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, the zooification of people is huge. People in poverty, oh, I want all these pictures. Can you imagine if someone came to your house and started taking pictures of you and your kids? I'd be like, whoa, creep. No, go away. Yeah, it's horrible. And so we've really flipped the script on that and said, like, we want no part of that, but we want to give you a gift. And that's why the connection between humans is so wonderful in that capacity, because they say, oh my gosh, you see me and you're not taking advantage of me like the other people I've seen. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yep,
much.
thanks.
Awesome job. Okay, just a couple things before I'm going to set you loose and put you to work for some brainstorming. But you got to listen to me first, because I have one rule. And nobody listens. You all start talking. So first of all, if you're new, all these tables have facilitators at them. Print the Love facilitating tables are the blue cards, and Lift Up are the orange cards. And the executive directors are going to work their way around each table to answer one or two questions. So don't keep them, don't hog them at your table, or I get yelled at. So you got to let them go after they answer a question. So here's my one rule. Okay, everybody tells us that this room has such potential for clickiness, but we aren't clicky. And the reason we're not clicky is because all of you welcome everybody to your table and into conversation. And so tonight, when I tell you to move, the only person that gets to stay at the table is the facilitator. Everybody else has to get up, and you can't stay with anybody else at your table. You have to go to a different table. And there's some tables up here that need people. So if the table's full, you got to go to another table. Just look around. We'll see you back here in 30 minutes. Okay, you guys, less talking, more moving. Okay, find a table, you guys.
I know you said there's no sign at my table.